is Calvin Tucke. He's the campaign's manager of the Morning Star newspaper and an election observer of the Venezuelan presidential election. Thank you so much for coming on. Quite an unexpected result for some today. What's the general reaction there?
Well, it's unexpected for the United States, but I don't think it's unexpected at all for the people of Venezuela. The opposition here have been crying fraud in almost every election for the past 25 years since Hugo Chavez was first elected president. I've just come back from outside the presidential palace in Miraflores, and there are thousands of supporters of the government celebrating in the streets. 3 days ago, I attended both the opposition rally and the pro-government rally. Both were huge. The opposition rally was about 100,000 strong. The government rally was extraordinary. I would say approaching 1 million. So clearly there's mass support for President Maduro in this country. And the only reason that some of your guests sound surprised and people in the West sound surprised is because their media have only been telling them one side of the story.
And Maduro has obviously reiterated that Venezuela's electoral system is transparent, but many have been questioning the legitimacy of this vote. Do we know any more details about the counting process that happened overnight?
Well, the counting process is the same as it always is. It's a computerized voting system described by former US President Jimmy Carter as not just good, but the very best in the world. And it's fraud-proof. And the reason for that is that voters vote on a touchscreen computer. It generates a paper ballot, which is put into a ballot box. And at the end of voting, the ballot box is tipped upside down, and the paper and the receipts are counted in front of government and opposition witnesses. And the results are then reconciled with the computer count, and that forms the basis of the election result. If fraud has been committed, it's obvious that it would be found out. These allegations of fraud are made by the opposition and by the United States at every single Venezuelan election, but they're never, ever able to tell you how it could be done.
And Calvin, we know there have been some huge economic problems in the country. Can you just tell us a little bit more about President Maduro's leadership up until this point and some of these huge challenges that his country is facing?
Well, the biggest challenge that Venezuela faces is it's been put under draconian US sanctions. And the purpose of those sanctions is to bring the Venezuelan economy to its knees in the hope that voters vote out President Maduro, because essentially they're being blackmailed by the United States. But the result that's been announced today demonstrates that people are not prepared to be blackmailed and that they want to stand up for their national sovereignty and their independence. The economy has been devastated by sanctions, but it has rebounded in the last 2 years. Hyperinflation has been brought right down to single figures, and the economy grew by 7%. There's food in the shops, wages are rising. Yes, people are still in desperate circumstances, but they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they've decided to stick with President Maduro rather than sell their country down the river to the United States, which endlessly threatens them with sanctions, with military intervention, and does not have the interests of ordinary working class Venezuelans at heart. And they've turned out in huge numbers to back the president that they believe serves their interests.
Calvin Tucke, live from Caracas for us there. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.